Good day, everyone. I am Angela Javier with Alleiyah de la Cruz, Carylle Dumago, Ivan Pilien, and Shalene Gojo Cruz. Together, we are Group 5 of Fundamentals of Zoology, N04B, here to tackle the topic of vaping and if it really is as bad as smoking. First and foremost, let's ask the question, what is vaping? There is often confusion between the different terms related to vaping. The term vape refers to the vapor containing chemicals such as nicotine and flavoring. Meanwhile, the act of vaping is when you use a small handheld device like e-cigarettes, vape pens, or pods to inhale a mist of nicotine and flavoring, which is the e-liquid. Throughout the years, in the face of many anti-smoking campaigns, people have started using vape devices as an alternative. Vape has become more and more common. According to the Global State of Tobacco Harm Reduction Project, there is an estimated 82 million vapers worldwide in 2021, and these numbers continue to rise. In the Philippines, there is an estimated 2.7 million vape users in 2021. The use of vape products have also become much more common in the younger generation, including within student populations. In fact, according to the Global Youth Tobacco Survey, about 14.1% or 1 in 7 Filipino students from the ages 13 to 15 say that they are currently using e-cigarettes.
As Angela has explained what vaping is, how is it different from smoking? When comparing the differences between vaping and smoking, first and foremost, it is important to consider that nicotine is delivered by both smoking and vaping, in which nicotine is what keeps smokers and vapers addicted to their habits. And nicotine is delivered via combustion when smoking. Meanwhile, it is also delivered by vaporization when vaping. Other than that, according to a study published in Respiratory Research, vaping may have similar effects to cigarette smoking to smoking-related illnesses such as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma, and many more. With these said similarities, we have to keep in mind vaping is different from what smoking is. Smoking can be easily defined as the practice where tobacco is burned and the vapors either tasted or inhaled. Smoking is bad for one's health as the toxins produced by burning tobacco cause smoking-related illnesses which affect air passages, lungs, alveoli, and heart, apart from other things. Smoking is associated with lung cancer, bronchitis, emphysema, coronary heart disease, and ulcers of the stomach and duodenum. On the other hand, vaping is not harmless, but it is much less harmful and cheaper than smoking, and can have a similar feel or hand-to-mouth action as smoking. Barrios 2019 explains that the term vaping refers to the process of using nicotine solutions that, when heated, produce vapor. Vaping involves inhaling and exhaling vapor from an electronic cigarette or a device similar to one. Regular cigarettes burn people's lungs and turn them black from the smoke they produce. Although vapes don't burn one's lungs or even produce smoke, and they don't actually have any short or long-term effects. In fact, doctors even advise vaping to those who want to stop smoking but need an alternative. However, according to hopkinsmedicine.org, vaping can be less harmful than smoking, but it's still not safe. According to research, vaping is harmful to your heart and lungs, in which it elevates your heart rate and increases the risk of having a heart attack by raising your blood pressure and adrenaline levels. New research also indicates correlations between e-cigarette use and cardiovascular disease as well as ties to chronic lung disease and asthma. Indeed, vaping has been linked to an increase in lung illnesses and deaths. In fact, in February 2020, 2,807 cases of e-cigarette or vaping use-associated lung injury were confirmed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and 68 deaths were linked to the illness. Because of this, we could say that despite the fact that they have been advertised as a tool to help one stop smoking, e-cigarettes or vape have not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration as smoking cessation devices, and illnesses, injuries, and fatalities cannot be avoided and is still associated from this, since vaping is still smoking in a lighter or less harmful note.
Now, we talked about the general overview of what a vape is, but what comprises it? Vaping devices such as the electronic cigarette, the vaporizing pen, or the vape pen have three major components, which is the liquid cartridge that creates the vapor, a heating compartment called an atomizer, and a rechargeable battery which powers the atomizer. Particularly, the liquid cartridge holds the liquid or chemical components in producing smoke or vapor from the vape.
Chemically speaking, in contrast to traditional cigarettes, which contain harmful substances like tar and carbon monoxide, e-cigarettes don't actually contain actual tobacco. As an alternative, e-cigarettes or vape use a liquid nicotine solution called e-liquid or e-juice, which is composed of four fundamental components: water, nicotine, flavorings, usually water-soluble, and a propylene glycol (PG) or vegetable glycerin base (VG). Jewel 2013 explains that it is not always apparent what exactly is in e-liquids, but the FDA usually considers both PG and VG to be safe in foods, medications, and cosmetics. However, there haven't been enough scientific studies done to determine the effects of inhaling them on a short or long-term basis. Although PG allergies are rare, they can irritate the eyes and lungs, and they may be more dangerous for those who already have long-term respiratory conditions like emphysema and asthma.
Moving on to the fourth question, what changes takes place in your lungs when you smoke versus when you vape? Next slide, please. To answer that, smoking and vaping don't differ that much. Because the product is burned while smoking and smoke is inhaled into the lungs, smoking was traditionally regarded to be more dangerous. However, research indicates that heating vaping liquids and breathing the vapor that results causes very similar lung damage. Alveoli, a tiny air sac, are about 500 million in the lungs. They draw oxygen from the air that we breathe and exhale carbon dioxide. By obliterating the lining cells, smoking damages these air sacs. Lung tissue cannot regenerate, in contrast to the ability of many body structures to do so. Therefore, over time, smoking causes more harm to the alveoli. A person's ability to fully expand their lungs with each inhalation is hampered by the increased fibrousness of lung tissue as a result of lung damage. Less lung tissue and less expansion results in less oxygen reaching the areas where it is most needed. On the other hand, vaping or using e-cigarettes is also harmful to the lungs. However, research into the exact effects of vaping on the lungs is still in its early stages. Still, experts do have a theory as to why vaping is bad for the lungs. To improve the flavor of e-liquids, diacetyl is frequently added. Diacetyl causes inflammation and may result in popcorn lung, a permanent scarring of the smallest branches of the airways of the lungs that makes breathing challenging.
The next question asks, what particular respiratory diseases are linked with vaping? To put everything in context, vape or e-cigarette liquids contain potentially toxic flavoring substances such as benzyl alcohol and vanillin, which can directly affect free radicals generation. This leads to oxidative stress and inflammatory responses in the respiratory system. An increased level of neutrophil elastase and myeloperoxidase were observed in vape user sputum. Neutrophil elastase and myeloperoxidase are neutrophil granule enzymes which cause bronchial inflammation and structural damage in diseases such as cystic fibrosis and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. E-cigarette vapor contains numerous substances classified as pulmonary irritants such as acrolein, formaldehyde, and acetaldehyde. E-cigarette users reported symptoms of cough and dyspnea or breathing difficulties, which are signs of sensory irritation. Mucin concentration changes were also observed in e-cigarette users. Mucin 5AC, a gel-forming airway mucin, is associated with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease progression, which increases the risk of developing lung cancer. Oxidative stress triggered by inflammation is common for both chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and lung cancer pathogenesis, and it presumably may cause long-term effects related to vaping. Mucin 5AC to mucin 5B ratio was also seen to have increased, which is connected with failed mucus transport in muco-obstructive disease and other mucus pathologies, such as mucostasis and mucus obstruction. The effects of e-cigarette liquids and vapor, mentioned earlier, were shown to induce changes in the respiratory microbiota, which increases pneumococcal adhesion to airway cells and may increase a user's susceptibility to pulmonary infections. The latest research has shown potential impact on e-cigarette users' vulnerability to severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 or SARS-CoV-2 infection.
So let us know if is vaping really a lesser evil form of smoking. Next slide, please. Here I am going to elaborate the differences between vaping and smoking cigarettes in the form of safeness. Is it really a lesser evil form or just another form of you killing your health? Technically, vape is just an e-cigarette or just another form of smoking. Vape still inhales nicotine, flavorings, and other chemicals, just like what a cigarette has, that has some side effects in our body, internally or externally. So, both of them are still bad for our health. However, there are studies that proves vapes are less harmful but still harmful than cigarettes. So as you can see on the screen, there is a table that weighs the harmfulness of both forms of smoking. One of the factors why it is less harmful is because it does not contain tobacco that could cause harm to our health, unlike in cigarettes that has it. Also, when you are buying or using vape, you can see there that there is an indicated amount of nicotine. It could be 3%, 5%, or even 0%. But in cigarettes, you cannot control those. However, both forms have flavorings such as menthols, sweets, and etc. One of the factors also that made vape less harmful is because of its ingredients and chemicals. As you can see, the ingredients and chemicals of cigarettes such as tar, arsenic, and methanol that are not present in vape are way higher than cigarettes rather. Also, the way people use the product, in cigarettes, it is burnt, while in vape, it is just heated up. But take note that this comparison does not make vape safer than ever. Let us remember that even though there are factors that vape is less harmful, it does not mean that it is safe to use anymore, as it could still make an effect in our lungs, heart, and even brain. According to Jim McDonald, vapes are just designed to reduce the harmful effects caused by cigarettes and are just less harmful alternatives for smokers. Next. Would you recommend those smokers to use a vape instead? After knowing the comparison of vape and cigars, would we recommend those smokers to use the vape? Vape is a great alternative to remove the tobacco intake and to lessen the amount of nicotine. It is also a good alternative to lessen the chemicals you inhale during smoking. Medically speaking, it is better to not smoke at all, but it is also not good for those long-term smokers to to remove their habits of smoking instantly. That is why they are recommended to use vape to control their intake. However, we do not recommend those non-tobacco users or those who do not have an experience in smoking to use vape in order to start smoking as it may still cause harm to their body and health. So, next. So, that is all for our presentation entitled Vaping Isn't Really as Bad as Smoking. So, at the end of this, you will see on the screen our used references for this topic. Thank you for patiently listening to our presentation.